All right, on this episode of Bowks Talking Bouts, very excited to be speaking to an individual who's been a lifelong martial artist, progenitor of Evolve MMA, promotional figurehead in ONE Championship, and excited to get into quite a few topics today as I welcome Chatri Sityodtong onto the show. How's the day going so far there, Chatri?
It's 11:30 p.m. at night, so the day is wrapping up for me, but thank you, Dylan, for having me on your show. I appreciate it.
Yeah, good being able to talk to you, man, especially after such a huge event there, because an intriguing timeline, because around, October 2020, Atomweight Grand Prix was announced. Obviously, several roadblocks, many beyond your control there, but just the question being, how did you feel just getting to see those tournament quarterfinal matchups finally take place, just how exciting they were and everything like that?
Man, the fights were truly explosive and worth the wait, man. I mean, it was the ONE Atomweight Grand Prix. I mean, our female warriors are just not only is this literally the best female division pound for pound in all of women's MMA globally, but they put on a show, and it was just beautiful to watch. I mean, the back and forth and the razor thin decisions, and I was just so blown away by the skill set, the technical prowess, and the heart and the grit. Truly exceptional performances. I was blown away that night.
Yeah, amazing fights, fun to follow from my perspective as a media member too. But I also thought it was cool that you guys had set up like a fan voting kind of dynamic there for the semifinal matchups. It seems like the voting is kind of closed up. Matchups will be announced at ONE Revolution. Like, what kind of promoted the fan voting dynamic there? Because I thought that was intriguing, not generally the normal methodology.
Yeah, we our social media team came up with the idea. I think it was during fight week, and we said, okay, let's do it. And it was just another way to get fans involved. It was just I thought it was an innovative way, and why not? We had a phenomenal GP up ahead, and there was a lot of buzz, and yeah, just the fans enjoyed it. And so, judging from the number of votes, so we got tons of votes, and so we look forward to announcing it. I think in a week and a half or so, a week.
Yeah, and I've seen those Grand Prix belts are pretty heavy, apparently. I think I saw a report saying it was over 25 pounds. Can you confirm or deny?
Yeah, it's the Grand Prix belt is 26.2 pounds, the heaviest belt in the world of any global organization. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you guys always have impressive hardware for sure, but something I also found impressive on that ONE Empower card was the performance from Anissa Meksen. It seems like there's some rhetoric about maybe her potentially fighting Janet Todd next in a championship affair. Can you confirm or deny that, or is that being navigated in any kind of way?
I guess I can break it with you, Dylan. Anissa Meksen has been offered the world title fight against Janet Todd. I believe the team is talking to them, or has already talked to them. I haven't got the latest update. Just a few days ago, we decided it. So they're just deciding now on the time and venue. But that's a fight we're making, yeah.
Yeah, well, that's going to be an incredible fight for sure. But, I mean, it seems like big cards have been the theme for the last, number of years, really. So that's why I thought it was intriguing when you were talking about how the winter card is set to be the biggest one so far, and I can kind of understand it just seeing what's already kind of being outlined, like the Atomweight Grand Prix finals there, and just, Demetrius Johnson fighting and everything like that. So I'm kind of curious about the DJ fight there, because when you were talking to my buddy Nick Atkin there, you were talking about maybe some Pride-style matchmaking being in the DJ picture there. Are we going to see Mighty Mouse fight Elaine Engelani or something wild like that?
You're going to have to wait, because, my team has promised Ariel Helwani this week the breaking news on that, so I can't comment on it. I can just say that it's going to be a cool fight for DJ, and he and his opponent have already accepted the fight. And so we my team tries to spread the love, in terms of breaking news with all the different media organizations, and so Ariel Helwani gets the big break this week on his show. I think I'm going on his show on Wednesday or Thursday.
Oh, that'll be fun to follow along with. And I can't get too greedy here. I appreciate you giving me Meksen versus Todd. I'm not going to be fishing for all the big announcements coming up here.
Yes.
But the big card, no doubt, with that anniversary card. And I'm kind of curious because I mean, just more, I guess, looking at some divisional pictures, it seems like heavyweight is the most stacked it's been, and I've followed ONE Championship for a while there, and just the talk of certain Grand Prix being out there. Like, is ONE targeting a heavyweight Grand Prix in any kind of way? Because I think the talent pool would be there for it.
Yeah. So, I would argue that ONE and UFC have the two best athlete rosters in the world right now. Obviously, I think UFC takes the edge on the heavier weight classes, and ONE takes the edge on the lighter weight classes. And we have been making a conscious effort to beef up our heavyweight division the last several months, and you have seen some of it. And in fact, on September 24th for ONE Revolution, we have a title elimination fight between Anatoly Malyukin, who's 9-0, 250-pound specimen from Russia, versus Amir Aliakbari from world Greco-Roman world champion from Iran, who is, I believe, 10-2, and the winner will face Arjun Bular. We haven't thought of a Grand Prix in the heavyweight division yet, but I think you're right. I mean, we keep on recruiting more and more talented heavyweights, and if we get it to the level where I'm happy, then we would do it. I really try to reserve Grand Prix for divisions that I really feel are the best in the world, and I don't want to do it unless I really believe it. So obviously the atomweight division, the female atomweight division, is, in my opinion, the best in the world, and that's why we have the Grand Prix ongoing. We did it for the flyweight division, in which DJ won a couple years ago, and we also did it for the lightweight division, which Christian won. So the next Grand Prix that's coming up is the featherweight kickboxing Grand Prix. And genuinely, it is the single greatest pound-for-pound Grand Prix in the history of kickboxing. I think no one would dispute that. Everybody on that card, on the October 15th card, has multiple world titles from various organizations. And obviously the main event is a world championship title fight between Georgia Petrosian, the GOAT of kickboxing, versus Superbon, who's arguably up there right now, probably number one or number two pound for pound in kickboxing today. And the rest, the Grand Prix, the featherweight Grand Prix is just stacked. People like Andy Sauer, Murat Grigorian, the names go on and on. It's just a crazy division. And I would argue this featherweight kickboxing Grand Prix is better than anything that you've ever seen in K1 or Glory ever in the past.
Well, that fires me up because I was a big K1 mark back in the day when, Andy Hugh was getting out there and throwing, the, spinning shin kick and stuff like that.
Yes, and again, if you look at the names and you look at how good they are, it's just head and shoulders above anything that K1's ever done historically. And I agree. The golden period was, in the 90s, right, when we had all those spectacular kickboxers, and we haven't seen that since. And again, this division, we purposely went after the very, very best featherweights all over the world, and the technical ability is insane, and the world title collection amongst these athletes on October 15th is just insane. And so I think it's a huge treat for fans. If you love striking, this is a card you do not want to miss.
Yeah, I was, looking at the rundown for that show, and I'm like, this is a cartoonishly stacked event. What do you think the 8 or 9-year-old Chatri that was at Lumpini Stadium taking in Muay Thai for the first time, what do you think he would say if I went back in time and was like, you're going to put on a striking show of this magnitude?
This whole thing, Dylan, has been like one crazy adventure, and in many ways has blown away all my expectations. It's been a hard adventure with lots of highs and lows to get here over the last 10 years. But what really surprised me was the Nielsen Industry Report on the biggest sports properties in the world that came out a few months ago and put ONE in the top 10 in the world for viewership and engagement metrics. And actually, out of the top 10 players, there's only UFC and ONE from combat sports in the top 10, alongside the likes of NBA and NFL and EPL and Champions League and all these iconic sports properties. And what was amazing to see was how, ONE and UFC are neck and neck. Some metrics, UFC is slightly ahead of us, and some metrics we're slightly ahead of the UFC. And so what you can see now is that, there's a global duopoly that has formed now in the combat sports industry where UFC has a dominant share of the Western Hemisphere. We have the dominant share of the Eastern Hemisphere. But, in terms of viewership numbers and engagement numbers, if you look at UFC numbers on a standalone basis or ONE on a standalone basis, we are literally 10 to 20 times larger than the next competitor, whether it's a Bellator or any other player. And if you just even look at the social media metrics, let's say take Facebook as an example, UFC's at 37 million fans, we're at 31 million, and the closest next competitor is Bellator at 2 million. And then beyond that, it just drops off very quickly. So that has been the most surprising thing for me, Dylan, how fast we've exploded. But of course, there are 4.5 billion people here in Asia. Obviously, the most populous continent in the world. I'm pinching myself. I'm a lifelong martial artist. I've been doing Muay Thai for over 35 years. I still train almost every day, at least 5-6 times a week. I have been doing jiu-jitsu for about 10 years. Also train about 5 to 6 times a week. And honestly, I feel like I'm a kid in Disneyland or a kid in a candy store. It's like, I can't believe this is my life, that every weekend I get to hang out and watch the greatest martial artists on the planet, compete at the highest levels in mixed martial arts and Muay Thai, kickboxing, submission grappling, and boxing, and the list goes on and on. I just, I genuinely never thought that we would be where we are, 10 years on. Obviously, the journey has been very difficult. There have been many highs and many lows, but I'm just saying, if you had said to me 10 years later you'd be amongst the top 10 largest sports properties in the world, I would have thought you were just joking, right? I mean, all the other properties are, the other youngest one is UFC, which is 30 years old, and everyone else on that top 10 list from that Nielsen report is 70 to 100 years old. And if your listeners want to go, they just go to nielsensports.com. The industry report is available for free for everyone, so you can just download it and look at the stats. It's mind-blowing.
Yeah, and those metrics are hugely positive, just even in the context of looking to have the live events in America, because there's been a lot of dialogue about that. And also when you were talking to Nick Atkin there was some mention of how multiple states had approved the one global rule set. I was also talking to Christian Lee at the recent media call there, and he seemed quite intrigued at the idea of headlining a ONE championship event in America. Do you think we could see Christian Lee headlining a card in Hawaii in 2022? Is that out of the realm of possibility?
Yeah, definitely. I can tell you that we have big plans for the U.S. market in 2022. We originally had big plans for the U.S. market until COVID hit, right? And so it did put a pause button, but we're going to come to the U.S. in a big way. And my team in the U.S., people like Rich Franker and Matt Hume, have talked to various athletic commissions, state athletic commissions, and a few states have, approved, have given green light for the global rule set. So that's phenomenal news, and so yeah, I don't want to make any formal announcements yet, but I can just say that we have big plans, and knock on wood that COVID does cooperate, and that there isn't some new variant that causes havoc, on the global economy again.
Yeah, I was gonna say you kind of have to just take it day by day, moment by moment. It's such a hard to predict landscape.
Definitely, totally.
That's something I was noticing. Just the big event going on last night. A lot of people talking about that Vitor Belfort Triller fight there. Obviously, he had some connections with ONE for a period of time. There was some level of dialogue months back about maybe, Eddie Alvarez even fighting Oscar De La Hoya at one point. Is there any level of intrigue in having a collaborative kind of dynamic with ONE and Triller, because you've collaborated with other promotions in the past, so not entirely unprecedented?
I always say, all business deals have to be win-win. Both parties have to win.
Yeah.
And I think the most intriguing matchup right now for me is ONE versus UFC, champion versus champion, because, as I said, according to the Nielsen Industry Report, only ONE and UFC are 10 to 20x larger than the nearest competitor in terms of viewership. So if you were going to do a global mega event that would, bring all of Asia, bring all the Eastern Hemisphere, and bring all the Western Hemisphere together, it would be UFC in one. And I genuinely think that UFC would benefit significantly from our fan base and vice versa. And so there's only one promotion I'd be interested in terms of a cross promotion, and that would be UFC, because we are the two giants. It is a global duopoly, and I think fans want to see that.
Yeah, and I guess there has been some level of connectivity with the UFC, and as far as like that, Ben Askren that Ben Askren Demetrius Johnson trade rather. So I mean, some level of connectivity to a degree. So that's kind of like what you're looking forward, like maybe like a hybrid ONE versus UFC kind of a deal.
Yeah, I think a global mega event, ONE versus UFC, would be phenomenal. I mean, and I think it's because, obviously Ben Askren went over there and got knocked out, but Demetrius Johnson came over here and got knocked out as well. And actually,
same month too.
All of our UFC superstars that we recruited end up all getting knocked out. Sage Northcutt or Eddie Alvarez, Yushin Okami, and a bunch of others. But so I think, there is intrigue by fans, and that's probably the most common question I get from fans is, would you ever consider a ONE versus UFC event? And I'm always like, yes, definitely, I would love it. As a lifelong martial artist, I have a lot of intrigue. I genuinely believe in my heart of hearts that ONE and UFC have the best rosters on the planet. Again, UFC has the edge in the heavier divisions, and we have the edge in the lower, the lighter divisions.
Yeah, I'd seen that headline from MMA Junkie there, and I mean, you definitely have some great, individuals in the lower weight categories, like Adriano Moraes, like leading into the DJ fight there. I was kind of like confused at some of the lines I was seeing from the odds makers. I'm like, I feel like some of these guys haven't exactly seen this guy fight here, but it is what it is. Maybe part of the learning curve there. But a bit earlier in the conversation, you were talking about, Aliakbari and Malaikan being there for the title eliminator spot. I'm kind of curious, like, what is the, I guess, next bout for Kang Ji Won, because he had obviously knocked out Aliakbari. Like, does he have a certain fight lined up that we can look forward to?
No. We did offer him a fight against Buchecha, but he had to turn it down because his eye is apparently still injured from the Aliakbari fight. So we were trying to make Buchecha and Kang. Buchecha is also one of these prospects. Even though he's 0-0 in MMA, he's obviously the most decorated jiu-jitsu world champion in history. And for a heavyweight, he's the most athletic heavyweight jiu-jitsu has ever seen. He moves like a lightweight. He moves like a featherweight. His balance, his explosiveness, his speed is insane. And I do believe it will carry over very well in MMA. His debut is obviously in a couple weeks on September 24th at ONE Revolution. But I have high expectations of Buchecha,
Yeah, well, that's an intriguing bout on ONE Revolution as well. I mean, that Anderson Braddock Silva fight is definitely a big curiosity. And I was talking to Buchecha a bit ago, actually, and he seemed like a little bummed out in the context of like Gordon Ryan not seeming to maybe want to do the MMA as much and ONE, like maybe wanting to focus on submission grappling. Like, is Buchecha off in that assessment there, or is there still the plan to have Gordon Ryan concurrently doing?
No, definitely. I think Gordon is just taking it step by step. He obviously has his stomach issues. He's getting through it. He just messaged me last week, so I think he's getting better, and he's going to come back as an athlete. I think submission grappling as well as MMA. He definitely has both goals in mind in terms of being a world champion on the ONE championship stage.
Yeah, I mean, definitely a talented guy. That would be an intriguing fight to see, just him crossing over into that kind of rank. But someone coming up that is returning after a period, Joshua Pasio, I think that's cool to see. Definitely a talented fighter, but also, referring to that Nick Atkin conversation you'd had, like you were saying that you had some dialogue with Matt Hume about maybe speaking to Bibiano Fernandes at some point, like in the prior days it would have aligned with. Like, did you get to speak to Bibiano Fernandes, and when can we expect him in the ONE circle?
Bibiano and I spoke on Friday. We had a nice Zoom call and came to terms, and so his next fight is going to be December. I don't want to announce the opponent yet. Let them both sign first, but definitely very excited for Bibiano to return to the fold, and I'm glad we're able to come to resolution.
Yeah, and someone else I wanted to kind of touch on too was Victoria Lee, because I was noticing it's been almost 1 year to the day since the posting of her contract signing. She's getting ready to fight on that, ONE Revolution card, unbeaten in the circle so far, looking for her third straight. Can you kind of talk about the progression of Victoria Lee in the ONE circle?
So, according to her parents and her siblings, Victoria is the pound for pound best martial artist, in the family, and it's mind-boggling. She had her first pro fight at 16. When I was 16, I couldn't even tie my shoelaces, and here she is. She's a straight A student, a 4.0 GPA student in high school, and she's a rising star on the world's largest stage of martial arts. I just cannot imagine the pressure, her mental toughness, to have siblings who are both world champions, to walk, onto, a platform as big as ONE and perform remarkably well. And she just loves it. You can just see it. I spoke to Victoria after her last fight, and she's in her element, man. She loves it. This is what she's born to do. Just some people are lucky to find the very thing they love most and have the talent to be the best in the world. So I expect huge things from Victoria in the future.
Yeah, and they have the bit of Canadian connectivity too out in Vancouver, BC. My dad gets fired up about that.
Yes.
Yeah,
awesome.
I know you love to see it for sure. Just speaks to the international nature of the sport and what ONE's been doing. And this is more of a curiosity question because I'm a big pro wrestling mark and obviously big MMA aficionado. I was kind of wondering why the collaboration wasn't a little deeper with AEW and ONE Championship in April. Was there any dialogue about there being some level of brand interaction, or did you think it was maybe a better representation to just have a pure ONE Championship product and maybe not interact with AEW? Not saying it wouldn't be pure, but just in the sense of the sole focus.
I know. I think our social media teams might have spoken, but Tony Khan and I never had a chance to meet up or speak. I'm definitely open to working with WWE or AEW, but nothing serious or of significance has occurred yet. So, but of course, there's always in the back of my mind that hey, there could be some fun stuff to do together, and it may or may not pan out depending on always has to be win-win. I always say whatever you do, it has to be win-win. It has, all parties have to win, and so I think that's, it's obviously, I just haven't had any serious discussions yet, so there's nothing I can comment.
Yeah, no, that's fair. I just, was showing some of my friends the ONE product, and we were seeing Rug, and I started talking to my one buddy. I'm like, could you imagine seeing Rug in AEW? And he was getting all fired up, just him throwing people around.
Yeah, Rug is a African wrestling champion. It's not like he doesn't know wrestling. He definitely knows wrestling.
Oh yeah.
Obviously, his style is more Greco style, but he's obviously a specimen. He's obviously a beast.
Oh yeah, he's a very decorated Lutte avec frappe practitioner for sure, and everything like that. But I want to be mindful of your time, man. So I'm gonna try to kind of shore it up a little bit here. But one question that I'd had that was kind of on my mind a little bit, just we're talking about that ONE X show. Seems like it's going to be an amazing card for sure. Like I guess one fight that I've seen loosely discussed among some of the ONE Championship fans is a Rainier de Ridder versus Kiamrian Abasov fight for the middleweight belt. Is that something you're looking at for ONE X, or maybe not so much?
No, I'm not that interested in that fight. I think I'd love to see Rainier defend one of his titles first. So let's see what happens. But yes, I'm super excited for ONE X. Going to make some announcements this week on the Ariel Helwani show, or rather, it's called the I think it's the MMA Hour, right? He revives the MMA Hour again with Ariel. So I'll make some announcements there. But I'm super pumped for ONE X, our 10th year anniversary show.
Yeah, no doubt. That's going to be huge for sure. And also one of the big showings from ONE Empower was, Jackie Boontan, who seems to have been putting together quite a streak lately. Like, is she going to be maybe looking at an inaugural ONE strawweight Muay Thai title fight next in the circle?
Yes, I can break that news with you here. I've already told Jackie that she deserves a world title shot. So we will create the inaugural Muay Thai World Championship in the strawweight division for her and her opponent. And stay tuned for who the opponent's going to be.
Oh, that's awesome, man. Breaking a couple things on Bowks Talking Bouts here for sure. But, to reiterate the prior point, I do want to be mindful of your time and your presumably very busy schedule. Good talking to you, but is there anything you might want to add kind of as a parting thought as we're wrapping up here, man?
No, I mean, thank you so much, Dylan, for your time, and I enjoyed your questions. And if there's anything I can do to help you, or you want to speak to any of our athletes, or you want to speak to me again in the future, my PR team will hook it up, man.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. I had fun talking to you, and I always like talking to your PR people. They're so accommodating and professional and everything like that. So we'll definitely take you up on that, man.
Okay, awesome. Take care and have a great rest of the weekend, Dylan.
Yeah, same to you, man. All the best.
Okay, bye-bye.